This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations. Come for the craft beer, bourbon, whiskey, and great drinks. Stay for the conversations. Here's your host, Jonathan Green.
Welcome into another edition of the Bar Conversations. It's a fun episode. Hopefully the weather's changing where you are, or maybe it was 20 degrees like it was for me. Just kick off my week. We've got a great episode. We're talking with Kevin Patterson about spring beers. As you know, the season is kind of weird. It's not like some of the other ones where you kind of get those true seasonals. There's a lot of influx as spring and summer kind of all look alike. We'll talk to him about those. And in our conversation, we talked to Payton Howie, a country artist with a lot of cool music out there, a cool story to share as well, especially on how she got into music, or really that became her career aspirations. It's a really fun one. Don't forget you can listen to the Bar Conversations podcast on any of the podcast players out there. Just search Hops Spirits. You can also watch it on YouTube and Facebook. If you need a little help, go to hopspirits.com. But let's not waste any more time, and let's get into the show.
It's almost time. Where did I put those? Here they are. It's time for Tasting Notes.
Joining us again for another Tasting Notes is Kevin Patterson. He's a Cicerone National Beer Judge. He's also the manager of the Beer Trap craft beer store and bar in Lexington, Kentucky. Kevin, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be back.
Well, we always appreciate it. And, last time we were talking about barrel-aged just about everything with you on Tasting Notes, because it feels like that's the trend these days, and there's plenty of barrels out there. But, the weather is hopefully warming up for the good now, and, springtime is upon us, and the summer hopefully right around the corner. So this is, I feel like, a time of year where the beer styles kind of change. Can you talk a little bit about how, we leave the winter and go into spring, but unlike other seasons, I don't feel like spring really has a set in stone beer style that you're all of a sudden going to start seeing?
It's very much a season in transition. I know every time you see a 55-degree day that's reasonably sunny, all of a sudden, you're looking for the Hefeweizens, the Pilsners, the lighter IPAs, something a little bit more floral, something a little bit more fruity, a little more whimsical. But Mother Nature usually has other ideas for spring too. They're not all going to be sunny. They're not all going to be warm, and they're not all going to have you looking forward to those kind of days just yet. There's still some cold days deserving of a warmer weather, or kind of a warmer beer on the palate, warmer on the throat. There's still room for porters and stouts and those big beers. Now, what we see through the holiday season getting into January is big focus on imperial stouts and some of your Belgian quads. But it seems like the spring has been a little bit more of a place, especially the early month. I consider spring to be, March, April, and May. So March being the cold month of spring, that's whenever you still see some big beers out. And, I guess people get fatigued a little bit with some of the stuff they've been drinking for the last couple of months. And so this is the time when you see some other big beers like barley wines really stand out. And with the religious implications of Lent, Easter, and those things coming around, the Doppelbock was traditionally developed for this season. So those are big malt-centric beers. You don't get more malty beers than Doppelbocks and barley wines. And this is the kind of time of year whenever you see those starting to play out a little bit more. Bigfoot barley wine comes out, Behemoth barley wine. We're going to see more Spaten Optimators, Einger Celebrators, Maximators by Augustiner. Those are some really formidable brands. I know I had a Doppelbock, a Mirror Twin the other day, the Warehouse Doppelbock. Maybe I've had one too many Doppelbocks today. I don't know.
You started early, didn't you?
Words are hard. So we're not ready to leave behind those big beers just yet, but the styles do shift a little bit. Now that does come along with some other, beers to kind of get a jump on the spring season. I know Sam Adams, I think they come out with their seasonal beers right after New Year's. So it seemed they get a really big push on all those seasonals, and some people call that a seasonal creep. But I think that's always kind of happened, and I don't really see that coming out any earlier anymore. I know we tease people like, "Oh, you got any spring beers?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, the pumpkin ales just came out. You're gonna love these." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm kidding," but they don't dismiss that. They think that could actually be true. But when we look at the spring beers, we are going to see more of your Belgian blondes. We're going to see more of the session IPAs. One of the things I think has been gaining steam the last couple of years has been the hazy pale ale, even done at a sessionable level. So you're looking at a pale ale done like a hazy IPA that's somewhere around 4.5% alcohol. So I think that's going to be a big focus getting into the summer and into the spring. When you do start seeing those lighter beers like that come out, there's usually not a whole lot of transition between spring and summer. They're usually pretty homogenous at that point. But you will see those doppelbocks, you will see those barley wines. They'll start to wane a little bit as the weather gets warmer and warmer, and people start choosing, wheat beers, even your pilsners. Yeah, I think one of the big trends this spring is going to be really nice American-made pilsners that's brewed in a pretty traditional German way. However, they're going to use American hops, some of the new stuff like Citra, Nelson Sauvin, Falconer's Flight. I think some of those hops are starting to make their way into Pilsner making. And one of the things I like about those is most of the brewers that are attempting this are really, really good at making those styles of beers anyway. But this new hop does give it a new splash. These beers are fresh because they don't come from another country. They come from some places much more reasonable. You can get them here within a couple of weeks or a couple of days. You don't have to wait months on them. And so I think that's going to give them a little bit of an edge moving forward into spring.
Well, and I also feel like this is the time. I mean, nowadays beer styles kind of transcend their seasons a little bit, pending exactly. Some are very specific. But is this also a time where we'll start to see some of those more fruit forward flavors come out now that things are maybe coming back in season?
Yeah, I feel a little bit ridiculous by even saying, oh, the sours are coming back and they're going to be fruity. Well, guess what? They've been back and they've been fruity all winter, all fall. They haven't gone anywhere. And I think that's one of the cool things about most places we drink anymore. It doesn't matter what the weather's like outside. When we're inside, it's 68, it's 70 degrees. So you can drink whatever you want. Spring's coming up, but those stouts aren't going anywhere. They're going to be around. We just got in a big stout from Founders. Anymore, there's enough of a beer drinker where you can find justification to drink any style you want, any time of the year. Wheat beers, they stay on tap year round for us. Pilsners, they stay on tap year round for us because there's an audience for that. So maybe when you first come in, after a nice spring day, you're like, oh, it's kind of nice. I just got finished with this walk. Let me get a nice spring beer. But then after that, you can sort of chase your palate a little bit. You don't have to be stuck with seasonals if you don't want to be. You can go for that big beer. You can go for a big IPA. You can do whatever you want after that.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate the knowledge as always. And as we say, drink what you like, how you like it.
Exactly. Well, once I sell it, it's your beer. Do what you want.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here on the Bar Conversations is country artist, and her debut EP, Young Blood, is out now. Payton Howie. Payton, welcome in.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. I'm glad we can make this happen, and I appreciate you working us in to have a little fun and a little conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I usually ask this question because this is the Hops and Spirits, and it's a bar conversation. So normally, most of my guests are drinking something maybe a little harder, like a rye whiskey like myself. But I know you're not of age yet, so I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm just going to open up with this question. What's a favorite guilty pleasure drink of yours that's non-alcoholic?
Man, so I love any kind of energy drink, and I know they're totally bad for you, but when I'm not playing music or writing or anything music related, I'm probably in the gym. And so, you got to get that pre-workout in, you know what I'm saying? And I'm usually working out, like anyone that follows my social media, I'm always working out at 2 a.m. So
you need a little energy boost so you can stay
awake.
Yeah,
for sure. I love Bang or Rain. Those are my top 2 favorites for sure.
I was gonna say, between music and then trying to stay healthy, I'm sure those are 2 almost like full-time jobs with everything that goes on in your life, because I feel like the hours are just going to be crazy no matter what.
Oh, for sure. But even if my schedule was clear, I'd still be drinking them because I like them.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I said mine's a Coke Zero. I have a problem. I'm cutting back, but I still have a problem. And truthfully, my guilty pleasure drink is a cheap whiskey and Coke. But tonight I went with a little bit classier. Well, I don't know if I call it classier. Bespoke and Spirits Rye. They do some fun things as far as spirits go. They do a kind of rapid aging, and they're the only one that's ever done it right in my book and doesn't taste bad. But we're here to talk music, so I figure my first question will be a fun one because I'm guessing this is true because I've read it a few places. But did your love of music start when you got pulled up on stage at a Carrie Underwood concert at age 5?
Well, I wouldn't say it started there, but it definitely sparked my desire to want to do music, like pursue it as a career, because I mean, I've always loved music, and I'm sure even if I was, I don't know, had terrible stage fright or didn't want to sing on stage, I'd still be like sitting in my room playing songs and stuff like that because I just love it. It's in me. But yeah, definitely the whole Carrie Underwood experience when I was 5, she brought me up on stage at a concert. And it was my first concert, so it's kind of like a double whammy, because I mean, I think everyone remembers their first concert, like you never forget it. And even if you've been to a million concerts, whenever you go to like a live, just music event like that, you walk away just so happy. And, there's just that feeling. You never forget it, like driving home at like 3 a.m. and you're going to stop by IHOP or Waffle House or whatever on the way home. It's just the best experience. So for me, having Carrie Underwood be my first concert, and she brought me up on stage during it, like just the feeling of getting to stand on a stage and feeling the music under your feet and getting to look out and see like all these people, coming together that don't know each other just for like one universal thing, and that's music. And I love that, and that's kind of what sparked my desire to want to pursue it as a career. But yeah, so I guess in a way, kind of, yeah.
Well, and so I'm guessing then, like, even when you were even younger than that, a toddler, like, I'm kind of in the background. I have my toddler, my 3-year-old daughter, who's in bed just cranking out tunes because that's just what she does before she falls asleep. Is that kind of how you were, just singing around the house and everything, just a love of music?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, honestly, that's kind of why we ended up at that concert anyways, because when she put out her Some Hearts album, I remember I'd be sitting in my car seat in my mom's car, and she'd be blasting that Some Hearts record, and still to this day, and that's my favorite album she's put out, is that Some Hearts record, and it was on her Some Hearts tour that we went to. So yeah, I've always been that way, and I'm still like that, like I'm playing music all the time, and I'm singing and just all around the house, and my brother's like, shut up. So but yeah, so it's just kind of, and I think musicians are like that, it's just who they are. It's just in them, and you can't take it out.
And nothing wrong with that. And I'm hopeful for my daughter that she can carry a tune better than I can, because you'll just run away if you hear me sing.
Oh yeah.
So we're hopeful. We're very hopeful. But you talked about this too, like that kind of sparked being on stage, getting to dance and sing with Carrie, kind of sparked it. But when did you kind of go, okay, this is something that I want to pursue as a career? Because it's one thing to be the dream goal or whatever, but it's another to actually take that next step and go, I want to start playing gigs. I want to start actually recording things, doing things like that.
Yeah. So my whole life I've played softball. Since I was, I would say, about 5, I was playing softball, and my goal was I want to get a college scholarship. I want to play ball in college. And when I graduated high school, I got my scholarship, and I went off to school to play ball, and I was loving it. I was a full-time student, full-time athlete, and I was a full-time musician, because I started playing guitar and playing shows around my hometown when I was about 15, 16 years old. When I went off to college, I'd be in school, and then I'd, be on the softball team, and then on the weekends, I'd fly home and play shows. And I mean, that was the life, honestly. Like, I'm not even complaining. Like, that was everything that I loved to do, and I was getting to do all of it. And I remember when I was doing that in college, I was, people, I get the question a lot, like, what did your parents say? And they were super supportive. Like, if you can do everything you love, why not just do it for as long as you can? And I knew, of course, it was going to come to an end, because there ain't no Major League Softball. And, so it had to come to an end. I was going to graduate college and stuff. So that's what they said. And so that's what I was doing for my first year. And then I had put out my first 2 singles, Catch Flights and F-150. And things were going really well. And it just kind of got to the point where I had to, make a decision to either pursue music full time, because at that age, I believe at that point I was 18. I think I just turned 18. And it was kind of like, okay, this is prime time for me. Either I pursue music full time, or you know, just drop it because, you know, it was hard. I'd be like flying in Monday mornings at 3 a.m., going to sleep, and then having 8 a.m.s in the morning or whatever, you know, and so I had to pick one. And so I switched all my studies to online and decided to pursue my degree that way. And I quit playing softball. And then I started pursuing music like full time. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to give up the one thing that I've worked for my whole life to pursue this dream of music, like I better give it my all. Like I'm not going to just like half bake this thing, you know, like I'm going to try real hard. And that was probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make up until this point. And I don't regret it because, interestingly enough, like when COVID hit, my whole team pretty much stopped playing anyway. So like the girls that were, you know, playing on the team that were my age, my graduating class, they pretty much like, I would say they missed almost about a year and a half of their season. So I was like, hey, I mean, I didn't miss that much anyway, but long story short, I finished my degree and I'm getting it in May. So I'm done now.
Well, congrats on that. And I was going to say, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I mean, reading up, you know, getting a Division II scholarship to play softball is pretty impressive. And I mean, I'm guessing that had to be tough because if you grew up playing sports your whole life, I'm sure that was tough to just say, hey, I'm done. I'm guessing, do you miss it? Do you ever get out the old glove and just kind of throw the ball around, so to speak?
Oh, no. I mean, I remember my last game. Oh my gosh. I remember my last game, my last at bat. It was like, and I feel anyone that plays sports knows this, like an athlete's biggest fear is like their last game, like their last at bat or whatever, the last match, whatever it is your sport you're playing. And I remember my last at bat thinking like, oh my gosh, like imagine if I struck out. That would suck so bad. You're like, well, yeah, better stick to music. But no, my last at bat was a home run. It was a triple with an overthrow, and it turned into a home run. I was like, cool, let's just end it there. Like, I'm good with that. So I remember that, and I was a catcher, so I, you know, put all my gear away, and I put it back, you know, put it in my bag, and man, I brought it back with me when I drove home from college, and I still have not opened it. So I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. There's some baggers there that I've not yet unpacked. But yeah, I miss it a lot. I do.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, there's a lot of memories and camaraderie with teams, especially you know the actual team sports as well. Now, you know, you grew up in California and Texas. Is that correct? Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in California, and my family moved out to Texas. I would say, probably about March, April of 2020. And I've been playing shows out in Texas for a while now, and it's just, the music scene is insane. I got my start out in California, and now I'm splitting time in Nashville. I got a place out there, so I'm doing some, you know, rounds out there, writing, recording, all the business out in Nashville, and playing shows actually all over the country now. But, you know, when, you know, 2020 was a thing, I was playing a lot of shows in Texas. So I grew up in California, but I've been in Texas for, say, about the last 2 years.
I was gonna say, I mean, growing up in California and then even just, you know, now being in Texas, how does, you know, those places impact just you and kind of, you know, how or influence, you know, the music that you do?
Yeah, well, California, I mean, growing up out there, there's not like a very, what's the word, like deep country scene, I guess I would say. There is definitely some, you know, very talented country artists out in California, and I'm friends with a lot of them. But where I grew up specifically, you know, it was more rock, blues kind of vibe. And that definitely had an impact on the music that I listened to growing up. And so that's why I feel like a lot of the country music that I put out has a little bit of a rock edge to it because, you know, country kind of came from, you know, like that whole vibe, and rock kind of came from that whole vibe too. Like, you know, it's just, they kind of go hand in hand, country and rock music. Like, I love it. So I definitely am grateful for growing up a little bit out there and having that rock influence in my music a little bit. And then Texas, I always kind of thought like I knew, you know, Texas country. Like, I know it's a thing. I've always known it's a thing. But like being in Texas and just, it is just a whole new world. Like red dirt country, Texas country. It's just a whole different thing. And while I absolutely love, California, and I love Nashville too, being out there, like about half my time now, I will say that Texas has a rare kind of appreciation for music that is like just so interesting. There's like almost any show I've played, every now and then, we'll play some covers, and sometimes people will be like, oh, like I love the stuff that you wrote. Like, I love your original stuff. And a lot of times you don't hear that, and that's like the cool thing is that I've noticed that's kind of rare about the Texas music scene is just like original music trumps all, even as like an up and comer where the majority of, up and comers start out playing covers.
Well, and you talk about your style of music, kind of that you got a little bit of a rock flair. I'd say you bring a little bit of attitude to the stage. I mean, is that kind of how you would describe your music? A little bit of kind of a cross between maybe a few genres that lands in the country lane, so to speak?
A little bit, yeah. I definitely would say I love that traditional country sound, and like with one of the songs on my EP, Country Before Me, I really wanted to bring that traditional country, highlighting that steel guitar, and like I love that, and I never want to have that be something that I take out of my music, my sound. I never want to take that traditional part out of it, but I definitely love rock, and I love getting to integrate some of those instruments and sounds into my music too.
Well, I mean, you touched on it. I was going to get to that here in a little bit, but the single "Country Before Me." What was that like for you? Because that's kind of an ode to some of the female country artists that came before you and probably impacted you. What was it like to pick that song, write that song, and just end up recording it?
Yeah, so that was a song. I wrote that one with Eric Halbig and Michael Austin and Joanna Yeager out in Nashville, and I have this just major love and appreciation for the traditional women in country music that have, gone before me and paved the way, like Loretta Lynn, Dolly, and Reba. Like, they've gone before and they've had to walk this road that many female artists, like in my, generation, we don't have to face a lot of the things that they've had to face. Some of them we do, but like they went before and they kind of made the industry into something new for us to be able to be out there creating art and singing songs we've written, and even like standing on stages or going on tour. Like, without them doing what they did in their careers and the timeline, especially like you look back at their stories and just how they grew up and came into the industry and changed it for the better, so that's kind of how Country Before Me was born, and I really wanted to pay them that homage and respect in that song.
Well, and you put out your debut EP back in February, Young Blood. Can you talk a little bit about that and what it was like to actually put together, an EP? Which, I mean, I know it's not a full album, but I mean, there's still a decent amount of songs that you got to come together with and put out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's crazy to think about. I remember being a kid, like sitting in my room, recording songs on, like my computer or whatever, and thinking like, man, it'd be so cool to have a song out, and now it's like, oh my gosh, I just put out an EP. Like, I didn't even know what an EP was back then. Like, it's just cool to think about getting to put out a collection. I've put out singles before, but it's interesting just, the feeling of getting to put out a 5-song collection for people to listen to. And Youngblood is just like, it's weird how it all came together because it wasn't meant to be this way. I've done a ton of co-writes, and probably some of the best ones I've ever done, were put on that EP with Eric Halbig and Michael Austin and Joe Yeager. Like, we were all just writing about things that I felt, I was like, I brought to them, like, hey, I want to write about this. Like, or I'd have like this one liner, like, I really want to, highlight this, or I want to talk about this. And once we put the whole project together, I took a step back and looked at it, and it was like, to me, it felt like each song was a different piece of who I am as an artist, and like the things that I care about and the message that I want to put out to the world. Like, I love my country, and I'm grateful for the people that are out there fighting for our freedom. That's freedom. And Country Before Me, I'm grateful for the women in traditional music, and my rock influence is in there a little bit, and all the rest.
Well, I mean, when you were coming up with even just the name of the album, I mean, how did you settle on Young Blood, and does that have a meaning for you, or is that just something that you just liked and it stuck?
Yeah, so growing up out in California, I got my start playing shows around my hometown, or like they'd have open mics and stuff, and I grew up in like Temecula, California. I don't even anyone knows where that's at, but
At least I don't.
well, yeah, hey, it's all right. They have an old town, and in that old town, they've got like this music scene, and it's just this group of musicians, and they're all like super talented and seasoned musicians. And I was always the youngest one going in there, and I would just like sit at their feet and watch them play. And they were, turning me on to songs like, oh, hey, Bobby McGee, or hey, Edge of 17, Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, like all this like stuff that was like, at the time being 15, 16 years old, like that wasn't what I was listening to. And like, having their influence and stuff, like, and getting to be around them and teach me what it was to be a real artist. We'd do writers' nights and stuff. And they nicknamed me Youngblood because I was always hanging around, like, just like learning. And I'd go like, oh, hey guys, this is a new song I learned, or here's some new songs I wrote. So when I finished the EP, before I put it out, I went back home and I went and I shared with them these songs that I wrote on the EP. And I remember there was one guy specifically, his name was John, and he used to always, oh, hey, Youngblood, and he used to always call me that. And so I remember when I told him, hey, I'm calling the EP Youngblood, because that was always the nickname that they had for me out there back in my hometown.
I love that, and tying it into just kind of the influences along the way, and like you said, the album is a lot of you. When you're coming up with songs and writing songs, I mean, whether it's you're going solo or co-writing, what are you pulling from? Is it just an idea, personal experiences, little bit of both when you're trying to come up with a song?
It's a little bit of everything, I'd say. Like certain songs, like "Country Before Me," I'll use as a good example, was like, I knew that I wanted to write about, specifically the traditional women in country music. Like there was no doubt about, that. And we just, started writing that song. And I remember, especially that second verse, we were just throwing out song titles of, from women that had just like changed the industry. And, we were throwing out song titles here and there. And we just ended up like, oh, those roots run deep in the country before me. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to write a song called Country Before Me. And then we started, like, it just happened. And then, or like Never Go Home. I would say Never Go Home. We were all just sitting around like talking about the good old days back in before 2020, where we were all just able to hang out and, party with our family and friends and not have to worry about what anyone was telling us to do. And so that's kind of what Never Go Home came from. And so it's all different, life experiences and little hooks and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, speaking of Never Go Home, I think that would be your most popular song that you've released so far. How did that one come about, and how much fun was it kind of being able to record it and then even do the music video for it?
It was a blast, and I think it's an interesting thing as a songwriter when, you pour your heart out into every song that you write. And I definitely poured my heart out into Never Go Home because like that's, definitely one thing that I love to do is just be with my friends and my family and just like, having a good time. Like I'm always down for a party, you know what I'm saying? So, that was just kind of the feeling behind it, but it was never like, oh my gosh, this song, like this is the song. Like, I mean, I was never thinking that. I just put it out there because I was like, yeah, like I love to party, and I guess everyone feels the same way. So that's how it ended up being my most popular song, I guess. And plus I think everyone was tired of, being told, oh, stay home this and stay home that. And so I feel like everyone was kind of done with it, and that's kind of the attitude behind Never Go Home. And that's what ended up happening with the music videos. We were out on Percy Priest Lake in Nashville, Tennessee. It's called Hole in the Wall Island, and we just pulled up with some boats. We threw a party and invited a cameraman, and it was a blast.
Well, sometimes things just work. Timing is just right, and then I think too other times things are just personal because you wrote F-150, and I believe you drive an F-150. Is
I
that
do,
like
yeah.
how that is? So like you're actually living the life as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I promise.
Being kind of younger, what's it like to kind of find your voice? Because it seems like you were able to kind of put yourself in these songs, and not everyone gets to maybe do that right away or finds their footing right away. What's it been like for you to kind of find your lane and kind of your voice and what you want to actually put out there?
I feel like that's something that I've learned as I've grown as a songwriter. I mean, as an artist, I think a lot of people sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm trying to find my place in the world. I'm trying to find my calling or whatever it is. You know, I'm trying to find what it is that I want to do. Like, I think everyone goes through that at some point in their life. And I remember when I first started like playing music, even just because I enjoyed it and expressing myself with music, I never really felt the kind of I don't even know what the word I would use is.
Like you could just be yourself. You didn't have to like.
Yeah, it's never felt so
or...
right. You know, it's just that, you know, when you're doing something and you're like, it just feels natural. It feels like that was what I was supposed to do. And, you know, and I mean, I'm grateful for the fact that I've found what I feel like, you know, I want to do forever. And whether it's like, whether I'm the one writing and recording and putting out these songs, or I'm just writing songs and for other people, or whatever I'm doing, I don't care. I know no matter what I do, I always want to do something with music. And I've just been lucky enough to just meet some amazing people that have, you know, taken me under their wing and taught me what it means to be an artist, and taught me what it means to like write a song from your heart and not just like, oh, what would sound good on a shirt, you know? Like, I've just been really lucky to meet those right people and to, you know, cross paths with some just amazing talent. And so I think that combined has just really helped me to find like where I want to go as an artist.
Well, you're definitely authentic, and I think that says something in this day and age of music and being true to oneself. Your songs have also been able to, you know, be featured on things like Spotify's, a couple of their country lists, you know, some bigger lists that you're on there with some big name artists that have been doing this for a while. What was that like when you started to see your stuff pop up on those type of lists, like, hey, next from Nashville, or you know, new finds, things like that?
That was, well, honestly, it was crazy. I remember like wanting that for such a long time and wanting to, you know, get those songs playlisted for sure. And it's just really cool when you get to like write a song and then share it with people and you have no idea who they are. And it's just such a weird feeling, because I know, and other artists might relate to this, when you get on the Spotify for Artists, you know, app or whatever, you can see like how many people are listening to your music, and you can see like where they're listening to your music. And it's even weird. Like, I remember even like last week, like seeing that people like in the Ukraine are listening to my music like right now. And it's just weird to think that, like, you know, like with everything that's going on in the world, and whether they're listening to Never Go Home or they're listening to Freedom, like, you know, like it's just a weird thing to think about. Like the fact that you have the ability and you have the platform as an artist and a songwriter to be out there touching people. And Spotify has done a great job of allowing even up and coming artists and big name artists to kind of be on the same playing field of sharing music with everyone.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, a long time ago, radio, it was probably hard to break into, but now with Spotify, folks can find artists that they truly connect with, and it's awesome to hear that it's all you've gone global. And you know, you put out the EP at the beginning of the year. You've put out a few singles. What can we expect? A full length album at some point, or some more singles down the road? What's kind of next that you're allowed to tell me, since this is recorded?
All right. Well, for sure, I have a new single coming very, very, very soon, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's probably one of the most personal songs I've ever written, and I'm really looking forward to that one. And there's definitely gonna be a music video with it too. And then I have a few more songs that I'm dropping this year as well.
Awesome. So working slowly toward the full length album, then, I'm guessing, just slow rolling it.
I would love that for sure. Yeah.
And then I guess that my last question for you is, what can folks expect for you this year? More tours, going on tour, shows, things like that?
Yeah, I'm currently on my Youngblood tour, so I have my tour dates posted on my website, paytonhowie.com, Payton. And I'm hitting a lot of states. I'm having a couple of really cool shows coming up. I'm playing a show with Warren Ziders on April 22nd. I'm going to be at Round Rock Amphitheater on April 30th. I'm opening up for Clay Walker. And then I'm opening up for Gary Allen on April 9th. And then I'll be up in Dallas at AT&T Stadium on May 7th too.
Well, it sounds like some fun shows, and some really some other up and coming with Warren, and then some older big names there as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm really looking forward. He's a total beast. I can't wait to like meet him.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, it's cool to see you get to play with all kinds and get to share the stage with those. And like she said, PaytonHowie.com, Payton, and you can also find her on social media because of course she just gave a great tease that a new single's coming here soon, so you don't want to miss that. Payton, this was an absolute blast, and I appreciate you sharing a drink and some a good conversation with me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.